Good evening and welcome to the Harwich Finance Committee meeting. It is Thursday, September 15th, 2022, and it is 6 p.m. We are meeting in the small hearing room in Town Hall. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed, just so everybody is aware of that. Looking on our stream, we have Dan Pelletier, Water Superintendent, is with us, or will be with us shortly. We have in person here, we have the Town Administrator, Joe Powers, and I think some other folks may be coming to talk about, items that we have before us. Our sole mission this evening is to work through the special town meeting warrant. Special town meeting is called, or has been called, for Tuesday, October 18th, 2022, 6 p.m. in the Community Center. We have been presented from the town administrator with 8 articles. If you remember, we started discussions a couple of sessions ago. We had 7, and number 7 was broken up into 2 pieces so we could deal with Monomoy and Cape Tech schools as separate items. So with that, unless anybody has any questions, I would propose we just go through the articles one by one. Listen to any of the input, listen to your questions, etc. And I will say that Mr. DaCosta, who's our clerk, is in Nashville, Tennessee. I talked to him about 10 minutes ago. He was getting himself from a highway to a place where he can call in, so he will be calling in. He assures me of that. I think he's going to try calling in here. If not, he'll call my cell phone. And we'll work from there. You all set? Joe, you want to start off with an update, if you will, on what's transpired since you were here last week with us? Just any updates you might want to give us, and we'll dive right into Article 1.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, and it's nice to see you folks in person. First, what you have in front of you is the latest version of the special town meeting warrant. The only thing that I'm anticipating adding to that ahead of the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, September 19th, would be any votes of the Finance Committee relative to the articles. So what you'll see in the warrants is the article language, is the estimated cost and explanation, the present votes of the Board of Selectmen. The board took action on all, 7 of the 8. That has not changed since last week. They will take action Monday evening on Article 2. And then last, what you'll see on the page is a prospective motion written by council. These are understood to be positive motions. Of course, if there's a motion for indefinite postponement, that would be reflected in the warrant, but this is an effort to try to get as much information to the voters when we do publish the warrant. Additionally, Mr. Chairman, as you know, I have distributed this evening, and I believe you did the last evening, an email that you were copied on, which was my update to the Board of Selectmen for their information for their meeting on September 19th. And if I could, I want to just cover some key points that I think the committee will want to be aware of before you start your deliberations.
Okay, one quick question.
Sure.
I think last week you said the warrant closes tomorrow. Is that right?
The warrant is expected to be voted to close on Monday, the 19th.
Monday, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So in the memorandum that I sent to the board dated September 14th, you can see that I've mentioned that in the warrant is the article language, the purpose, etc. I also emphasized to the board that I would be attending this meeting, and I will report out to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow whatever conclusions you folks come to. First, I want to emphasize that the town, were relying upon free cash in reserves from fiscal year 2022. Council has vetted that and confirmed for us that it is not. Free cash is not available as a funding source. So that's obviously a significant change. So what I've articulated to the board is a recommendation from council as to how the town could go forward, because as you may know, Mr. Chairman and members of the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen did articulate that they would like to have as much of the school funds that are being reallocated impact upon the tax rate when they set that later this fall for the benefit of the taxpayers. What that means is, in every article, the town would have to raise and appropriate a portion of money. I say a portion because Article 1, there are two funding sources, and we can get into that more in depth. That other funding source is retained earnings. A council has articulated, however, a way that if the board wants to go forward, could still meet their effect of helping out the taxpayers with the funds that are being returned from the two school systems that we're a part of. So all of that is in your memo in front of you. And what you all will also see is there is a dollar amount change with regard to Article 3. As you know, David Spitz is joining us this evening as Chair of the Brooks Academy Museum Commission, and that is because we are looking at, Article 4. David and I have been revisiting the numbers. Chairman Spitz has been working with the architect, and we believe that a request of $150,000, down from $250,000, would still accomplish what the town's looking for. So more on that as you get into Article 4. So then, Mr. Chairman, I think at this point it might be better to go through the articles themselves.
Yep.
And so you know that Article 1 has one change to Article 1 is a reduction. Dan Pelletier, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Thanks, Dan.
And by the way, I'll just reference Dana DeCosta, I see is on the screen now. We have Dan Pelletier on the screen, just so the folks at home know we have everybody. Hey, Dan.
How you doing?
Whoops. Oh, he's gone. There you are.
So I asked Superintendent, and in the article, you'll see that we are referring to 52 Route 28 and 62 Route 28. That's two potential parcels. It would be one or the other, not both. More on that as it relates to Article 2. But additionally, I was made aware by the superintendent that the reference to Sadie's Way, it is in the article, but there is no intention of the town proceeding on parcels related to Sadie's Way. Is that correct, Dan?
Yep.
All right.
That will be coming out of the language.
So what was taken out of the language, I believe, was specific information to it. There is one other reference to it, so we'll strike that. You can see it's basically the third sentence up from the bottom. Second in from the right says Sadie's Way. That will not be part of the article. As I referenced, let me just see here. Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, the estimated cost under Article 1 is actually supposed to read $105,000
In total.
in total. And that is because if the town is going forward with the parcels that are listed, $70,000 will come from retained earnings. And that is going to be for the bulk of the parcels that you see articulated in the article. The $35,000 is meant to come from raise and appropriate, and that is related to either 52 Route 28 or 62 Route 28. Again, the town probably anticipates proceeding on 52 Route 28 in this article. Council has advised that he thinks it's best that the parcels remain. Better to have them in there and not need it than to down the road need it and not have it in there. So $75,000 is for the bulk of the parcels. $35,000 would be to come to bear on 52 Route 28 or 62 Route 28, and that's because that would be an eminent domain taking. Council has indicated that it is a placeholder dollar amount because the town still needs to go through the exercise of appraisals and would still come back to the annual town meeting for specific dollar amounts. At this point, I'd ask you to recognize the superintendent to either correct or add anything that I may have missed.
Okay, Dan, you recognize you want to say anything, otherwise I might have a question or two, or the board might have a question or two.
No, I think Joe hit it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so let me just understand. In Article 1, we have 628, or 62 Route 28. but then it also appears in Article 2. And that's the confusing part to start with. So on one hand, we're talking about doing these locations for pump stations as part of the wastewater plan. In Article 2, we talk about this and other properties for other reasons, right? Or at least this property for other potential reasons, like housing or whatever, or a pump station, or, you know, that kind of thing. Can you give us some, I'm just trying to sort this out in my head.
Sure.
Is, with the pump station, if you use 62 Route 28, would it go in the parking lot or something, or, because that's a historic structure, isn't it?
The Harwich Baptist Church is a historic structure in that area. We would be looking to use a portion of that parcel, but again, the town is looking more at 52 Route 28 for the pump station.
I understand.
Rather than 62, but
So you're really saying that if we end up purchasing 62, for say, I'm making this up, for the purpose of housing, we could also incorporate somewhere in that piece of property a pump station. Is that what we're,
Yes.
that's what we're getting to,
correct,
right?
that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to keep open and available.
Yeah, okay, all right. And the location of 52 Route 28, that's the building with the X on it at the moment?
Correct,
So that's a condemned building? Or is
correct.
it-
Well, sorry, no, the X indicates that if
Don't
there's
enter
a
if
fire
it's on
there,
fire,
correct, there's
yeah,
no,
yeah,
there's
okay.
no response inside.
And that property's not actively for sale at this point in time? Or, I mean, I don't know, I'm just trying to
Correct.
understand. Okay, and have we had any conversation with anybody about potentially buying it?
So the superintendent has had conversations with various parcel owners,
Okay.
including that parcel owner.
Okay, all right, so we have indications that the parcels you've identified potentially could be willing participants, I would just call it, right? I mean,
Yes.
we're not dealing with any adverse possession here or anything like that, are we?
Not at this point.
Okay,
I mean, you know, I'm not in a position to negotiate, you know, the
I
terms of
understand.
an agreement with behalf of the town.
I
So I
understand.
haven't gone through that exercise, but
Okay.
in my discussions with property owners, they've indicated that they'd be willing to negotiate with the town.
okay. And, you know, the engineering work done in these two areas show that that's about where the pump station should be, right?
That is looking like it's gonna be the best spot.
Yeah.
We've moved from the bridge area where it turned out there wasn't really enough real estate there to get what we needed, especially with the flood levels. So we're repositioned up to that intersection of Depot and 28.
Okay. Just asking a dumb question, real estate question, is there any chance for 62 Route 28 that they could subdivide the property, so one little chunk of it is a pump station and the rest they sell off, or we buy, or whatever, as a separate transaction? Is that possible?
Well, it may be possible, we don't know the full extent of that yet. The purpose of Article 2 is probably first and foremost to clear up title. Then beyond that, the uses that we're talking about,
Yeah.
we're not expecting anyone to subdivide it. We're looking them to use the property as is allowed under our zoning for multiple units in one structure, similar to what's being proposed right behind it at Five Bells Neck.
And Dan, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but many people have said to me, you're trying to make holy water here, so. I don't know. It's just out there. Okay, all right, so let's open it up. Those are my questions. Let's open it up to the board. You folks have questions on this, or concerns, or Mr. DeCosta, you out there?
Yes, I am.
You have any questions or comments, or?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay, we're waiting.
The 35,000 raised and appropriate, what, that would be for FY 23, 24?
That would be fiscal year 2023, present year.
Okay. So that doesn't change taxes or anything?
So if all of the articles proceed as recommended, the net effect on the tax rate would be a reduction of roughly $500,000. That's all of the articles that are contemplated presently, raise and appropriate, plus the two articles that are coming from the schools to reduce the budget.
Okay, and if we didn't do all those articles, we'd be actually reducing it more. That's what you're saying.
Correct. I believe the total on the two school articles comes to $923,000.
Okay, that's my questions.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Or yeah, wait, Dan, or Mark, I'm sorry.
I just don't know, the dollar amount, is that to buy it, the easement, buy the right, like almost like as a rental type of thing? Is that the reason for the dollar amount?
Well, there's some compensation provided to the landowner,
Landowner.
whoever that is, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And
so
I-
that's- okay.
I assume that's what this is now, and I assume that the legal fees or whatever associated with this are where, in this article, or are they separate? Like town council, whatever you're gonna need.
So to that end, I would say that the council work, the preponderance that has been done up front.
Yeah,
The 35,000 is related to that one property, 52 or 62.
Yeah.
And that's more to have funds available for the appraisal and other related costs. The other parcels that we're talking about, because this is somewhat of a mixed article, if you will, the superintendent has been working with council all summer, and they believe that if there is any cost to the town, it would not exceed the 70,000 for the, Dan, is it now 8 parcels? If Sadie's Way is out?
Yeah, sorry, you might hear the kids in the background.
Okay,
So the 8 parcels that are in there, of those, right now we have 3 that we're considering as primary pump station candidates. But where we're at right now is we're just getting the ground survey in. We're still exploring the pump station locations and where they're going to fit. So as we get further into engineering, one of these sites is rendered not useful or not capable of hosting a pump station, we have a couple backup places that are included. So the primary stations are right now at the end of Chestnut Lane. Sorry.
that's that holy water. Don't worry.
So the end of Chestnut Lane, there's 2 on Wilma's Way that would be looking to place the pump station kind of in the woods between them to leave a buffer. And then the last one is, sorry, I'm blanking here, Wilma's Way.
Pleasant Bay Road, Dan?
Pleasant Bay Road, yeah, sorry, thank you. We have one on Pleasant Bay Road also that's on current town-owned land, so we don't need to for that, sorry. But we have backups at the area of Round Cove and Pleasant Bay, as well as at Standish Woods, and the other parcels that are listed there. I have a map too, if I can share it on my screen, I can show you.
No, we have a map in the warrant. There's actually a little map in the warrant, so.
Dan, they do have the 2 maps showing the
Yeah, we get it.
proposed locations.
So Dan, just for information purposes, the Route 28 pump station is a sort of in the future timeframe when that part of the sewer system gets implemented.
Exactly, but.
The
what's
phase 3
critical
is
now-
near a term, right?
Yeah, yep.
So the phase 3 structures, approximately when would people expect to see those pump stations installed? A couple of years from now or what?
Yeah. So assuming everything goes well, town
Yeah.
meeting and thereon, I would anticipate we bid the project next summer. And then there's going to be a lag between submittals and whatnot, and depending on supply chain with pipe, because it's a year out right now, the ductile iron pipe. So that's why I temper the timeline, but at best, I'd say probably 2 years.
And the pump stations are similar in size to what you have in East Harwich, scattered around
Yeah.
the kind of prefab buildings and,
Yeah, and I've been, talking with the abutters, we can dress them with whatever
Yeah,
finish, if it's
yeah.
flat border, cedar shake.
yeah, no, I get it. All right, good.
Just one more question.
Yep.
So, just so I follow correctly, 52 and 62, they're time sensitive because of,
Yeah,
do you have to stub out for construction? Is that why it has to be decided now? Because you don't have a place to put that stuff for a while. I'm just wondering why
Yeah.
the time sensitivity of it.
yeah, exactly. So when we're talking about developing a gravity, right now we're looking at a gravity collection system for the road. So we need to be really confident exactly where that low point for the pump station is going to be to ensure the pipes are pitching in the right direction and are going to hit at the right depths. So I wouldn't recommend putting the pipe in the ground as a dry pipe without having the pump station site, or at least the authorization to take it if needed, authorized.
Long-range planning. I mean,
Well, I understand for construction reasons, he needs to know the
Yeah.
that elevation stuff.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
all right, any other questions or comments?
Are we just discussing Article 1,
Yes,
Yeah.
not 2?
not yet.
Okay.
Okay, are we done asking questions about Article 1?
The goal is to go up to 105.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry. The change we need to do is to get it to 105,
Well,
105.
the motion should cover what we're going to do. Dana, do you have a motion? I know you sent me one potentially.
Sure, I'll give it a stab. I move this article be accepted and adopted, and the sum of $70,000 be appropriated from water enterprise funds retained earnings, and $35,000 be raised and appropriated for this purpose.
A second?
Okay, it's been raised.
Dan's got something. He's-
Dan,
Yeah, could I recommend changing it to sewer enterprise fund?
Certainly. So instead of water enterprise fund, it's sewer enterprise fund. But retained earnings, is that correct?
Yep.
Dan, if I could, sorry, Mr. Chairman, through you.
yeah.
The motion provided by council refers to a wastewater enterprise fund. Is it wastewater or sewer?
In Mass General Law, Chapter 83, I believe it is, refers to it as a sewer enterprise fund.
Thank you. So we'll have that proposed motion and also reflecting that for a town meeting.
Yeah, and this the finance committee's accepting and adopting the article, please.
Okay,
So it's 105 then.
yeah, 105,
105.
from two sources. Okay, there's been a motion, was there a second?
A second?
Go ahead, Mike, go ahead.
Was that Mark Enris?
Okay, yeah, Mark Amrith. You're gonna keep at least a vote count, right? Remember I asked you the other day? Just because Dana's on video.
Okay, I will do that,
He's gotta
yes.
do that, but you should do it too since you're here,
Yeah,
you know? Okay, so it's moved and seconded, Article 1, which is the acquisition of property interests and appropriation funds for the Route 28 Dry Sewer Project and Phase 3 wastewater project. It's been moved, accepted, and adopted. Total amount is $105,000. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mark?
aye.
Angelo?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Mark? Dana? Dana?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. It's unanimous. This one's easy, right?
But can you just, let me see, Dan's there.
Yep, Dan's here. So the full complement is here, except for you. Huh?
Is there someone to your left?
Yeah, Mark.
Mark.
Mark Amores. He's our IT guy for the day. See you right there?
He's usually not there, that's all.
Okay.
Chair.
All right, we're done with Article 1. Let's move on to Article 2, which is strictly acquiring a parcel of land located at 62 Route 28.
First, Mr. Chairman, I want to emphasize that the Board of Selectmen has not voted whether to accept and adopt. They have voted to place it, and that was because we were waiting on council to evaluate what the net effect of the article would be, and more importantly, what the explanation and motion would be. And so you can see that the explanation provided by council is actually larger than the motion itself. The intent here is if the town of Harwich is contemplating acquiring 62 Route 28, and the town would do so for the municipal purposes, including housing, cemetery, and sewer purposes. As I mentioned for Article 1, at this point, the recommended estimated cost of council is $1, and the reason for that is this would authorize the town to go through the process of the taking. However, appraisal would need to take place, tax title work would have to take place, and council would indicate to us that the authorization would start a process that would then go back to the annual town meeting in 2023, and also indicates that in the manner in which the Board of Selectmen is considering this, there would be additional waivers and other items that would have to be provided by parties that may be involved. I will tell you that the board is still contemplating this transaction under their rights of executive session, so there are some things I would not be able to get into yet because it relates to strategy. But the purpose of this article is to authorize the town to go through the process of a taking if, in fact, that's how the whole thing progresses.
Okay, so one path forward for us would be no recommendation pending further information, like is what the selectmen are going to do. It seems to me we should have at least the same information unless it's something super confidential. And maybe that takes a joint meeting of the two boards
Correct.
to figure that out. So, does anybody have a problem with that? Dana, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna recommend. I'll send in motions to Joe as well on, reasons from the finance committee, unless you want me to send it to you as a draft and then go from there. I did send you some things for
Okay.
the finance committee reasons that would go in there.
Okay, so would someone make a motion to, no recommendation on Article 2 pending,
Would I ask a question?
oh, sure.
I'm just curious, since this is a church,
Yeah.
or is it still considered a church in terms of belonging to a diocese or what have you? And does the church have to go through some kind of decommissioning, desanctification process before it can be sold?
It's probably part of what the board is trying to sort out. I don't know.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I could actually speak to that.
Okay,
The Baptist Church is a local independent, is my understanding. They've already gone through that process,
Okay.
and they've already listed it for sale.
Okay,
So they've gone through that process.
so it's free and clear.
Correct, that's one of the few issues that we're not further evaluating.
Okay.
all right, so I want to make a motion, Article
I'll
2.
I move that we make no recommendation pending further information.
Second? I'll
right.
second.
Moved and seconded, no recommendation on Article 2 pending further information. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Chairman's an aye, unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Just making a note here. Okay, on to Article 3, which is the bylaw charter review resource funding.
Again, Mr. Chairman, the change on this is the funding source would be raise and appropriate. The board is aware of that. The board has voted 5-0 to accept and adopt. We don't expect that to change at their meeting on Monday. And no other changes to the article have been contemplated, so the language you see and the explanation are consistent with earlier versions. And you can see that the motion that's provided by council, should it have a positive motion, is accepted, adopted, in the sum of $75,000 be raised and appropriated.
Okay, so I haven't been in touch with what the bylaw review committee and those folks have done in the last several years, so kind of, bear with me for a second.
Mhm.
I guess we, being the Board of Selectmen, you, whomever else, has determined that it's necessary for us to go outside of Harwich to tell somebody how to govern and manage our town, right? Is that what we're saying? I mean, it seems to me that,
Respectfully, I would say that's not what we're saying,
okay,
if I may.
go ahead.
The bylaw charter review committee met jointly with the Board of Selectmen. The bylaw charter review has recently reconstituted and working, has been meeting, I think, monthly to review, as they often do, their document. And in their discussion with the Board of Selectmen, both entities, both public bodies agreed that they think that the documents are ripe for review and analysis. And so the funding that's being requested would be to allow the town to seek additional resources to aid the bylaw charter review and their analysis, with an eye towards having either a preliminary report brought to the 2023 annual town meeting or a broader action beyond that. But my understanding is between those public bodies, They both have indicated the town's keen desire to analyze and potentially update both of those documents, and to do so, they would want to have funds available to work with a consultant.
Okay, so it's going to be the Bylaw Charter Review Committee doing the work, basically.
Correct, predominantly.
Hiring consultants as they need to, and going through the process as we always do, as it says in the charter, and how we modify those documents,
Correct.
right?
That's correct.
All right, so then my question is, Angela, have you been involved in this process?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Dan, have you been involved in this
Nope.
process? They are representatives of the,
Yeah.
but I'm just asking.
Mhm.
Bylaw Charter Review Committee, those are the FinCom's representatives, so,
We go, I think we're gonna be meeting a couple of weeks from now. I still don't have it back today.
okay. So maybe they did their work prior to, them being,
They had a meeting last Monday.
okay, were you there?
No,
Okay,
I didn't know I was supposed to.
okay.
Yeah, are we supposed to be invited to the meeting to participate, or do we just show up?
As I told Angela one time, just,
I called.
yeah, you are the representative, so,
So,
That's a public
I
meeting.
believe I used
Yeah.
her name too. I asked her
you what?
I asked her to send us information on when the meetings were.
anyhow, you will be heavily involved as they move forward, certainly with this project, so,
Clearly.
yeah. Okay.
I think
I have a question.
Karen?
I have a question, probably, I know, Joe, you might know, but the history on the bylaws and the
All right.
charter updates, it's been done a couple of times, like I don't know, major might not be a right word, but there's been a couple of revamps of them, right? And we're just doing another,
So the way that I would characterize it as a daily user of the charter and the bylaws is that, and in fact, we just received word today, the town, we've been updating the charter piecemeal. That is to say, when I came on board, there was an effort to expand the charter as it relates to the wastewater commission. I think we had omitted the wastewater part of it. And there have been changes, I think piecemeal changes to the capital outlay section, as we've talked about. Beyond that, the charter has not had a comprehensive evaluation since its inception of the current version in 2006. There are probably, if I had to guesstimate, anywhere, say, 25 to 50 piecemeal changes that have been made over the years, but not a substantive look at the charter. Then when you turn to the general bylaws, and for a moment keeping the zoning bylaws out of it, the general bylaws have had a similar reaction where there's been some piecemeal changes to bylaws, but not a wholesale reckoning and look into it.
and, yeah, and it, just to have an independent third set of eyes on it, probably not a bad idea because of all the piecemeal type activity.
Yeah, so from my perspective, as I've heard both Bylaw Charter Review and Board of Selectmen talk about it, and what I've indicated is, the town already has a vendor. If you go on the website, you can see that the electronic version of our code is E-code 360. So these funds, we could go to that vendor and say, it's standard that they do, it's a separate charge, it's not under the current contract, but analyze our charter for the changes that have been made, analyze our bylaws for the changes that have been made. The Bylaw Charter Review Committee could then say, and compare that to like-sized communities or things like that. So I, for one, again, we'd have to do a request for proposals on who the resource would be, but I'm not looking at, say, a governance expert, retired professor of some sort, or something that necessarily where. First, and what the majority of this money would be used for, is an initial analysis based on our current vendor that helps us when we update the documents.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is the expectation that this work could get done for next town meeting?
So I had indicated that, and both Bylaw, Charter Review, and Board told me they thought I was a little too optimistic. I said, let's see what happens.
Well, you don't know until you try, right?
Correct, I agree.
Okay,
Excuse me,
yeah.
what you just said doesn't give them information to make the changes. It gives information on how to use and form, which was already done, right? So,
The last part of what you said to me is the first part, meaning they can rely on the present vendor to say, do an analysis of our charter document. It was adopted in whole in 2006. How many changes have there been since then? You know, how does it look? Do the same for the general bylaws. And then from that, bylaw charter review, perhaps in concert with the Board of Selectmen, may then say, and then we recommend some other
I
stuff.
understand.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that's the way it
Yep.
was. Okay.
Okay, you want to make a motion?
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I said it, Board of Selectmen voted 5-0 to accept and adopt.
Dana, were you saying something?
Yeah, I don't have a positive motion on this one.
Okay, so any other positive motion? We want
I'll do it. I move that Article 3 be accepted and adopted and the sum of $75,000 be raised and appropriated for the purposes of this article.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded to accept and adopt $75,000. Discussion? Dana, you want to tell us anything, or?
Yeah, I'm just thinking I just like the idea of having more people from the town involved in looking at the document once it's analyzed, I guess. And I don't see the full necessity of sending it out to someone to look at. I think it's something we could do in-house.
It sounded to me like it was more like someone coming in to look at it, as, you know, working with the committee is the way I think Joe just described it, but that's just my interpretation at the moment. Okay, further discussion? The motion is accept and adopt at $75,000. I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Angelo?
Aye.
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 Dana?
No,
And chairman votes aye. So
610.
6-1. And you have the name. Dana was the dissenting vote.
Thank you.
Okay, article number 4. I knew there was a reason former town planner David Spitz was here this evening.
I can
Oh,
make
you,
room if
sir.
you want to come up.
I'm just backing Joe up.
Mr. Chairman, regarding Article 4, there is a change. It's the kind of change that I like to see, where the estimated cost has been reduced from $250,000 to $150,000. If there was a bright side to my omission to the appropriation article in May, it's that we've been able to refine that. And in a moment, I would defer to the chair, I think for him to present some additional good news that we heard, relatively speaking, in the marketplace regarding this project. But again, it's $150,000. It's predominantly for the town's owner's project manager, which is a requirement under the state procurement laws, because we expect the total project of that renovation reconstruction project to exceed $1.5 million. And again, that would be raise and appropriate.
Okay, so let me just ask a dumb question, because based on the numbers I have, I think it falls below the threshold.
So the way we've looked at it is, we know that in the major bid that went out for the foundation work is not the sole work that's being done. So when you look at the full recommendation and request for money, fiscal years '24 through '28, the total combination of dollars spent on that building for these purposes does exceed the 1.5 million.
Assuming that we vote to do those things, right?
Correct, but we have to, the town has to operate on the assumption that this cost will exceed that for the 1.5. I will also add that it is good practice for the town to have an owner's project manager.
I'm not
It's-
arguing that. The point I'm arguing is, with the numbers in front of us, we don't meet the threshold that's identified as the reason to do it. I think the better reason to do it is because we should do it.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
I'll lead with that.
Now, I mean, I would say that's the reason to do it, because it's good management practice. And by the way, you get what you pay for in these things, as opposed to saying we're doing it because the state says we have to do it, when the numbers that are voted and authorized today, to me, they only add up to 143. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Nope, I don't disagree with that at all. I appreciate the comments.
All right, I would, for me, I'd take it out of there, but that's just me. All right, Here we are.
So, I think, through Joe, you asked for a history of the project. So do you have the?
Yep.
Okay, so we got the bad news 2.5 years ago that the building that was started in the mid-19th century was built on nice Cape Cod round stones, and even though nobody can see that much is happening, if you look at the foundation a little more carefully, it's not doing well. So you don't really see that. You probably won't see it if you don't take any action for 25 years, but then you're not gonna have a building anymore. So we need to take action. My committee identified a bunch of other things we want to do that adds up to well over the 1.5 million. We got to deal with the siding, we got to deal with the windows, there's some interior stuff we want to do, but we have to do the foundation first. So, the structural engineer came down right away in 2020, told us what he thought needed to be done. I thought he was talking $500,000. By the time he got a construction guy to look at it, it was on your list, $840,000. I was prepared to go for community preservation funds for that $840,000. Town engineer said, add 20% for design and 25% for cost contingencies, and you're up to 1.2 million. So that's the application we did to CPC. Dan, I think you were on at the time.
I was, yes.
And we still had some money left over from the original $130,000 article, so the new CPC article was 1.15 million. We thought we were in really good shape once the town engineer had done these contingencies, and we've all been hit by a crazy construction situation that anybody trying to do business in 2022 knows about. So the bid came in, the sole bid in April of this year at 1.6 million. There's no way we could go ahead on that. So we just stopped everything, tried to decide what to do. Our architect, to his credit, really pounded the pavement talking to contractors. We were planning to go to bid in the fall. We were told, go at the end of the summer, go at the end of August. That's what we've done. We were able to generate 4 bids. That's the good news. The less good news is that 3 of those bids were 1.5 million and up. The 4th bid was probably from the contractor we were most interested in, somebody who has Harwich experience, and his bid came in at 1.189. That's a lot of money. It's barely within our budget, and we've advised the Board of Selectmen that we should go forward because we don't think things are going to get any better. So this is a good bid from a good contractor. We really need to go ahead. We're just barely covering the cost of construction. We need to make sure that with the OPM and with the architect's contract administration, that we're covered for the 6 months that it takes to do this project so the building can be complete before the museum season next spring.
So this article goes forward, your expectation based on the bids you got is you would start construction when, this fall?
Yes.
And you'd finish by town meeting next year?
Yeah, I think we've got an end date of April 30th.
Okay.
We're anticipating 6 months.
But right now, the amount you have in contingency on that project is how much?
After this bid,
No, it's like 0, right? I mean,
no, it's $12,000.
yeah, okay, but I mean,
Yeah, it's
not a
zero.
lot, right?
That's right.
Which to me reinforces the idea of the OPM even more, to make sure that the town has the eyes and ears on the ground doing the project and making sure as items come up, they get handled expeditiously, et cetera, so you don't have a contractor sitting there with a large crane saying, okay, I can't do anything for 3 weeks until you get a vote of somebody or something, right? I mean,
Yeah, we think we have a good contractor. We have an architect who's worked with this contractor before. In addition, the OPM would make us much more comfortable.
okay, and again, just so I understand, and, I was at the town meeting in the football field when this was brought up, and, it was a very simple article, and it passed without much discussion at all, quite frankly. It's kind of stunned me that, there weren't many questions. But anyhow, what caught my eye is, in your list that you gave us on the cost, it says Brooks Academy Foundation and Basement Project. What is the basement part of it?
Okay, so to do the foundation, you gotta go down 4 feet with new concrete anyway. The extra cost of going down 8 feet and taking material out of the basement is cost effective. So it gives us a lot of storage space for the various town, historic, whatever. So that's what that.
Okay, but in the end, it's a vacant basement, right?
This project will only give us a vacant basement.
Right. So
So there's
when
gonna
we
be
say that that
future
project is
requests.
done and we're ready for the next phase, somebody's gonna go down with a candle or a flashlight and say, oh, it's a great basement down here, right? I mean,
Community center, same deal. I mean,
yeah, no, I know, I'm just,
We've got to do the foundation, we got to do the exterior, we got some interior things we got to do. We get all that done, we can do something with the basement at that point.
and so, just give me a second. So at some point in time, separate from this article, you're gonna tell us all how much this whole building costs us in the end, right?
In Joe's capital, 5-year capital plan, you'll see at least another $1 million in there for other stuff we need to do. It's already been part of the town plan, the capital plan that went to the voters last spring.
All right, questions?
I was just curious where the project manager comes from, where they're sourced from, and have we had experience with them in the past, just out of curiosity?
So generally speaking, the town does a request for proposals for our owner's project manager. We'd be asking them to be familiar with Cape Cod, be familiar with a building of that size and age and historic nature, that sort of thing. So folks that have done those types of projects in this area with that type of building.
The school, when they built Monomoy High School, I think they had an owner's project manager, which was, it's an engineering firm, I can't remember the name, it's got an odd name to it, I can't remember it, but,
Usually it's Strekalowski and Hoyt. Does that sound right?
no, we
Okay.
used them before for architecture.
Oh, no, okay,
Community
yeah.
center, right?
All
Didn't
right.
they do the community center? No, it's some other, I don't know, whatever, but they earn their money, let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
You know, I think there's huge value in a project manager. It'll hopefully keep this thing on track, so I think it's huge.
Well, and if I just could, the thing that I love about it as the chief procurement officer, and Mr. Chairman, you sort of alluded to this, that person works for the town, and if something goes wrong, the town goes after that person. So that the town's liability is reduced when you have a project expert like that.
So 149,000 goes towards insurance?
He ain't wrong.
Okay,
Cool, thank you.
question, yeah, Dan?
Just as I understand this correctly, when it went to CPC, the committee approved a project cost of $1,263,290.
Yes.
So those are the funds that are available out of the CPA funds.
The CPA funds are the two articles I've set it on this page, 130 plus 1150, which comes out to 1280, which is just slightly above your 1263.
Okay, the point being that the amount of funds appropriated under CPA funds will cover the $1,189,000.
Yes, because what we've spent to date, expenditures to date at the bottom of your page is 78,000. So that's where
Okay,
your chair is, you got 0 left, and I said, no, we got 12,000 left. That's what that comes out to.
all right, thank you.
Angelo?
Just a question, the difference between the 4 feet and 8 feet. The difference in 8 feet is giving you a setup for a good basement
Yes,
in the future to do something in and put things in. You
yes.
don't need the 4 feet to fix the building. which is
No.
what the goal is.
We don't need the 8 feet to fix the
Okay, so
building.
why don't you just do the 4 feet? Why doesn't the town just do the 4 feet? And if you have things you have to put away some places, we have buildings that you can put things in.
That was voiced at town meeting, I believe. I've certainly heard that argument before.
Just argue
It's
with-
really hard to move this stuff around. It would be much better to have it in one place, any of the historic stuff. There's a cost, but it would be much more cumbersome to do it elsewhere.
So how much is the cost?
I don't have that in front of me right now.
Well, maybe we should get that, because maybe we can build it right outside in wood without a basement or anything else. There are other ways of doing it, than making a big basement.
Okay, and the number of 150 came from the architect? So what I, Where'd we get the,
The 250 came from me with input from David. The 150 has been refined by the architect in the current conditions.
okay.
Yep.
all right. So we're pretty good with that. We're
I
pretty
feel
solid.
much better about that, absolutely.
Okay, Dan.
So the 1,189,000 includes 8-foot foundation
Yes, it
walls?
does.
We're not gonna save that much money by going to 4 feet. I can assure you. From experience, I just know that.
Oh, just moving the building is,
Pardon me?
it's the same building move whether you're doing 4 feet or 8 feet, right?
Well, with 8 feet, you've got room for partitions. in the
No, no, I
building.
understand that, but you gotta move the building, right, no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so whether you're going down 4 feet or 8 feet, it's
Right.
more about the excavation of the concrete and
Yeah.
rebar than it is about, I don't know what percentage of the cost is moving the building over here and then moving it back, but it's not cheap.
It's actually, you don't have to do it quite that way.
Just do it.
Our
How you doing?
structural engineer says it can be supported in place.
You gonna jack it up?
Jack it up.
Oh, okay. Well, interesting.
That's a big difference
Yeah.
between 4 feet and 8 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we should have some handle on that, because somebody will ask the question, I guess. However, I think the way the project was funded and approved, as you rightly did, assumed you were doing a full basement.
Correct.
Right from the start, yes.
Right.
By full, I mean full
Yeah, I
height.
remember our
Correct,
discussion.
and that-
Angela's question has come up more than once.
Yeah.
And we've pretty much given the same answers there.
But I'm just
Cost-effective.
asking for the number.
Okay.
I didn't say don't do it, I just was.
All right,
asking for
Article
the
4, ready for motion? Somebody have a motion?
I'm ready.
All right, Dana?
I move this article be accepted and adopted in the sum of $150,000 be raised and appropriated for this purpose.
There a second?
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to accept and adopt at 150. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Angelo?
No.
Okay. Dan?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Mark? Dana?
Aye.
Chair is aye. So it's 6-1, and Angelo was the dissenting opinion.
My dissent, yes, it was, I'm sorry. I said no, and I did it, because I think we shouldn't be voting on things that we don't have the answers to what the numbers mean.
Yeah, okay.
And I want it to get done.
Okay.
I think we need to do it with numbers.
So you would rather do a no recommendation pending further information sort of thing?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Okay,
have somebody tell us it's
Yeah.
$10,000.
okay. All right, motion was adopted 6-1.
Thank you very much.
Article 5,
Article 5 is to fund the one-year contract. Thank you, David. The one-year contract with the town's management union, also known as SEIU Local 888. Again, the town was successful in reaching agreement on a 1 year, and then the subsequent 3 year that we have come to agreement with 3 of the other unions and remain in negotiations with 4. The necessity of this is because it is fiscal year 2022. As you may recall, the board put in Article 4, line item 2 for fiscal year '23, money to fund current contracts. This was not part of that. The dollar amount is exactly as it's listed there, $22,916.72. Again, it would be raised and appropriate, and the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously 5-0 to accept and adopt.
Question?
Yep.
Just who belongs to, just give me an example of who belongs to this union? Town, the Management Employees Association.
Sure, if you think of the majority of our department heads, so everybody on the floor that we're on, so the conservation agent, the director of planning and community development, the building commissioner, the health director, the director of assessing, the treasurer collector, the harbor master, the natural resources officer. So if my memory serves correctly, I think their roster covers 17 positions. It's quicker to say who's not in that, and that would be the assistant town administrator, the 2 deputies, and the executive managers.
Thank you.
I have one question. Can you just clarify why are we talking about this now? Why wasn't it done in a more timely manner? Like, why are we going back?
So the simple answer is the town entered into negotiations for the fiscal year '22 more than a year and a half ago. The negotiation process led to this point today, and under the state's finance laws, you have a year to fund it. So we were able to execute simultaneously a 1-year and 3-year agreement. We can't do a 4-year, so we had to do a 1 and a 3.
And negotiations was such, it didn't work out to get it funded at town meeting with
In time for
everything else.
town meeting.
It's
Correct.
a negotiation issue.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just curious, so
Uh,
I wasn't piecing that together, but thank you.
Okay, any other questions? You ready for a motion? Danny, you got a motion?
Sure do. I move this article be accepted and adopted in the sum of 22,000. I lost the number somewhere. $22,917 be raised and appropriated for this purpose.
I second.
You notice he rounded up by
Yeah.
28 cents.
We'll send it back.
We don't do pennies.
Okay. So the motion which has been made and seconded is to accept and adopt at $22,917.
Pennies
Discussion?
will be free cash in the future.
There you go. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Angelo?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Nor? Dana?
Dana, aye.
Aye, it's unanimous, so.
Thank you, folks. Article 6 is to fund the existing position of surveyor, and of course, that's there because it is a position that has existed in the town for a number of years. However, it has not been appropriated for funding. And so the effort of the Board of Selectmen, because any efforts to have a town engineer have been fruitless without the surveyor position. So the intent of this article is to fund salary and wages and minimal office expenses so that the town can hire the position of town surveyor and then hopefully at the same time fill the position of town engineer. Board of Selectmen voted 5-0 to accept and adopt, and again, the $65,000 is to be raised and appropriated.
Karen?
I'm just curious, we must have assumed that we didn't have to really fill this, like we could get by and get an engineer and sort of get that person on board.
Yeah,
We've learned. that we-
Correct.
it's
My
not
understanding is when both positions of engineer and surveyor became vacant in calendar year 2008, that administration and board at the time opted to fill the engineer position and set aside a dollar amount. The dollar amount has been woefully inadequate, and that has impacted on it. So,
Got it. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Further
The
discussion?
number is 65,000.
What's that?
The number is 65,000.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got further questions?
No?
Dan, you got a motion?
Yeah, I move this article be accepted and adopted in the sum of 65,000 be raised and appropriated for this purpose.
I second.
Moved and seconded to accept and adopt the 65,000. Any discussion, any further discussion? No, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Angelo? Dan?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Aye.
Mark? Dana?
Aye.
Chairman's and I, 7-1 or 7-0 unanimous.
Thank you, folks. And so,
Number 7, which used to be 7, no, is 7 and 8 now, I guess, right?
correct. So Article 7 relates to revising or impacting upon the operating budget because of the revised assessment, whereby the town of Harwich is reallocating a dollar amount less, which is $739,747. Mr. Chairman, I apologize if you noted under the proposed motion, we have 2 placeholders that were to be filled in, and that is simply to articulate what the number was and what the number will be for the line item related to Monomoy. However, we know that the amount will be reduced by that $739,747. Again, this is not, it is raise and appropriate technically, but the effect of the raise and appropriate is for it to be lower than what we anticipated in May. Board of Selectmen voted 5-0 to include it, and it requires a straight majority vote.
Okay. Questions?
What number do you want in the motion?
So the request is that the Finance Committee would vote to accept and adopt the article, and that it would be related to the sum of $739,747. The motion for town meeting is still being refined. But I think it's appropriate if you voted to accept and adopt.
Yeah, okay.
I understand. I
Any-
move we accept and adopt the article and $739,737 being returned to the general fund for this purpose.
You said 747, right?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. I thought I heard 37.
I thought I heard 37,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
I second with the proper amount.
And Mark seconds it with that correction. All right,
Aye.
any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Angelo? Dan? Karen? Mark?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Aye, Chairman, unanimous,
Thank you, folks. And last but by no means least, Article 8, again, the reason for our ability to reduce what is to be raised and appropriated is because we were advised by Cape Cod Regional Technical School District in July of this year that as they were going through their evaluation and audit, the Department of Secondary and Early DESE, whatever DESE is, told them that they had too much in their excess and deficiency, and so they were required to distribute credits to the communities that make up the district. The credit for the town of Harwich is $183,394. And as you did with Article 7, the purpose would be to reduce the amount that was raised and appropriated by $183,394. So we will again fill in the blanks for the motion, showing what was voted and what it will now be for a net effect. Board of Selectmen voted 5-0 to accept and adopt, and town meeting would have to approve this with a majority vote.
Okay, questions?
I move the article be accepted and adopted and $182,394 be returned to the general fund.
Did you hear it too?
What's that?
Did you hear it
I
too?
heard a different number, yeah.
Dana, what we heard was 182,394. I think you meant 183,394, correct?
I do now.
Okay, just
I
checking.
thought, yeah.
Someone keeps taking my microphone here.
Mark is running the numbers here. Mark, do you have a second on that
I
motion?
second the amended amount.
I love wise guys.
Okay. All right, it's moved and seconded to accept and adopt Article 8 at 183,394. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Angelo?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Chairman is aye.
Thank you very much,
Congratulations,
folks.
7-0, good. We done? Okay, now, Mr. Town Administrator, we have one item, one article that's no recommendation pending further information.
Yep.
I think we will await word from you or the Board of Selectmen on either what they learn or what they decide, and whether we need to get together and, you know, agree to something or whatever to get this, you know, squared away before town meeting. Other than that, what other action between now and then do you need from us?
Relative to this special town meeting, we don't anticipate any further action. However, I just want to be clear then, based on our schedule, what we would anticipate would be printed in the official warrant ahead of town meeting would be your, if I can do it from memory, give me a moment, please. No recommendation pending further information.
Right.
Thank you. And so that will be recorded in the official version. And then, as you say, we should have our usual get-together meeting ahead of
And
time.
then we get to town meeting, we say, no, we got the information we need, we voted, blah, blah, you know.
And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, you asked what else would we need from the committee? Very little. From the chair, however, we would love to have you participate in the motions meeting,
Sure.
which will be, I don't know if you've already gotten the invitation. I have no idea when
I don't
it
know if it's
is.
gonna be changed or was changed because of the date of town
I
meeting.
believe it is going to change, so,
Okay,
yep.
So just let
And
me know.
will do.
All right, great.
Thank you, and thank you all for your efforts. I appreciate it.
Great.
All right, any other business that needs to be brought before this August board this evening?
I have a question.
Oh, Dana's got a question?
I just want to know on the reasons, are you going to go with what I've already sent you, or what do you want to do with those?
We're gonna start with,
Include reasons in the warrant.
we're gonna start with those, then we'll circulate it amongst the team and see what we come back with.
All right,
Okay?
I'm for that.
When is it, Joe, you need the reasons? Wait a minute. Joe, when is it you need the reasons for the warrant printing? When are you printing the warrant?
So, well, I have to ask, what do you mean by the reasons?
Dana?
But, yeah, the finance committee, in every warrant I've been involved with, has had reasons underneath each article as to why we supported the article. In fact, it says in the charter, the finance committee will have written reasons in the warrant. Like, for example, the language that goes with no recommendation pending further.
Sure. So then-
Recommendation that goes with that. And for each of the other articles, I put together at least a draft of what could be considered our reasons for
Right.
supporting it or
Right.
not supporting. And they generally reflect what we discussed tonight, and what would be, the positive results of the article.
Okay, so what I'm asking the town administrator is when would we have to have those into you to support the warrant?
So, based on what I've heard is, it looks like we could either append to the explanations or add a finance committee statement. The board's expectation is everything to be printed in the warrant needs to be presented to them for their meeting on Monday night. And so we're trying to get the packet done for tomorrow, Friday,
Okay,
to
so.
get it to them, so.
Okay, so Dana, let me just ask you a question. I know you put these together. I'm not going through them right now. If you have any updates, can you send those to me this evening?
Probably not. I'm with my family this evening, then I'm on the road early tomorrow morning. So probably Sunday is the earliest I can get them to you.
Okay, do you want to work through them right now?
We could, yes.
Did you send them to me? Oh, here you go. Here you go. Okay, so this is pretty simple. Do you have these? Maybe you don't.
I just sent it to you, Mr. Chairman.
Just read it.
You share that. I'll give you another one. This won't take long, I don't
You can
think.
share it with Mark.
Just share it.
I'll share.
Okay, Dana, so I passed out what,
Oh, thanks.
I think what you had sent me, although there might have been one other iteration or something. So let's just do Article 1, okay?
Finance recommends this article as a continuation of the wastewater project, Phase 3 along Route 28, is intended to put down in dry pipes in the ground before the state makes road improvements and resurfaces Route 28, so I need a D on hand. Once Route 28 is resurfaced by the state will prevent future road openings on that road for 5 years.
You guys okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna give you this, Joe, and,
Thank you.
Right,
Is there an electronic version as well?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there an electronic version available?
Yep.
Thank
You
you.
can send this electronically to Joe, right?
I can, yes.
Yeah, okay, let's just get through. Okay, so Article 2, let me read the reason we have here, just so might go a little quicker and be clearer. Again, this is the acquisition at 62 Route 28, so the Finance Committee recommends this article as this property is needed to install a pumping station along Route 28. Okay with
Might
that?
want to add, the reasons is housing and, whatever the building would cover. So,
You all right with that?
Yep.
Okay, Charter Bylaw Review. Finance Committee recommends this article as anticipated by Finance Committee that after consultants do their work, there will be ample opportunity for public input and revisions if needed in the formation of a new charter for the town before the document goes to town meeting. That would be public hearings, I'm assuming, right?
yeah,
You good with that?
yeah.
Okay, Article 4 is the owner project manager. Reason, Finance Committee recommends this article for a temporary position to protect the town while extensive renovations are made to this historic structure. Okay with that?
Yep.
All right, Article 5. Finance Committee, this is a fund negotiated contract. The Finance Committee recommends this article to support the Board of Selectmen's good faith negotiation with employees' union representatives.
Yep.
Article 6, the surveyor. Finance Committee recommends this article to fund an existing position that was vacant at the time of the annual town meeting. This position will now be filled and needs to be funded. You okay with that?
Yep.
Article 7, Finance Committee recommends this article be accepted and adopted, I guess, right? Dana?
Down, because it
Huh?
recommends this article, these funds were appropriated at the last town meeting, though, and they.
This article be accepted and adopted. These funds are appropriate at the last town meeting, knowing that they may not be needed as the towns are negotiating a new cost-sharing structure for the operation of the 2 elementary schools. All right? 8, the reason is Finance Committee recommends this article be accepted and adopted. An audit of the CCRT budget found the excess and deficiency fund of the school was overfunded and needs to be returned to the towns. Okay?
Good to me.
All right?
Good enough.
You good?
I'm good.
And you're gonna send Joe an electronic version, here's the hard copy, Joe, you can have.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you for
Thank you.
joining us this evening. If there is no other business, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.